bonjour, madame et monsieur. Bharat Pavilion में आपका इस्तेमाल. Today, we have with us an extraordinary individual for a fireside chat. I've been coming to Cannes for 29 years. I've seen India become what it has become now. But in that process of coming here so many years, I've seen one man hold the India flag and move forward. Right through. Presenting before you, the one and only Ashok Amitraj. We have Mr. Hal Sadoff in the room, one of the biggest producers on. It's a rare opportunity for all of you. Bharat Pavilion has never had so many big Hollywood people. Wait here. Front row. 50 years ago, 1974. Central Court Wimbledon, the junior Wimbledon final. An Indian was in the court. He and his brothers created the tennis dynasty called Amitraj, brand name in the tennis field. And he made, along with his brothers, India proud. In a sport that is the second most popular sport on earth after soccer. He was Indian junior champion for several years. And then something weird happened. He started dreaming of Hollywood. After you become a tennis player, you become a Wimbledon player, and you become a nationalist, and you become national champion, and you also become a globally recognized figure. Why the hell would you want to get into Hollywood?
That's a good question.
How did that happen, Ashok?
Well, tennis was the family business for many years. So my mother, who was instrumental in putting us into tennis, it was all about my mother, to be honest. My inspiration, pretty much everything that I am today, I think, comes because of my mother. And the qualities that she instilled in me, I think, have carried me through the last 50 years. And the last 30 years of my marriage, my 2 kids, hopefully we instill everything that my mother taught me into them, because that was perhaps the most important lessons in my life, and what has kept me going for the last 40 years of film. Has helped me to make 120 movies. I think I see her watching over my shoulder every day, even though she's been passed on for 5 years. So Mom was sort of the greatest inspiration.
Thank you, Ashok. We just had the Mother's Day.
We just did, yeah.
And I saw your picture with her in the car and you're standing next to her. 120 films. People want to make one film here. We spent 120 years trying to make one film. You made 120 films. A 40-year-old career in Hollywood. And a successful one at that. How much did Bringing Down the House make?
We made the movie for $32 million and it did over 200. So it was quite successful.
That's 1,600 crores straight. Good translation. But I was just doing the Google Ashok Amitraj, and I stumbled upon this figure, $2 billion gross. That's 16,000 crores. That's a lot of money, Ashok.
Not all in my pocket necessarily at this particular moment. But yes, it's been an extraordinary run. I've had the great fortune of working with wonderful people like Hal, and great actors, great directors, and I think it takes a village to make a movie. So this was the work of many people, but it's been wonderful.
So, before India became popular in the West, before RR got there, before we started walking the red carpet, you were out there telling the world there's a guy called Rajnikant. And you made a film with him and a Hollywood star called Bloodstone.
Yeah.
What was the idea behind that, sir?
I got to LA in the mid-70s. So a gentleman called Jerry Buss brought me out there, who went on to buy the Lakers and the Forum and all of that. And And it was around that time I played tennis for the next 10 years, and then I decided to do the first sort of Indian co-production with Hollywood. So Rajni was a friend. Rajnikant and his family are friends. Lata and the girls and so on. And so he was pretty much the obvious choice, coming from the South. He was pretty much the obvious choice. And it was a great movie to make. It was called Bloodstone. It was sort of the first of its kind, breaking new ground. Indian-American co-production. Rajni was wonderful. He did all his tricks. He was fantastic. And he used to sit outside reading comic books when he wasn't acting. And it was a wonderful experience. He was just fantastic.
Even before anybody else could sign it, the moment she became Miss World, she signed a contract with you to do Jeans, Aishwarya Rai.
Yeah.
And then you shot all over the world, right?
We did. It was Shankar directed the film. Rahman did the music. Ash was coming off of Miss World, and we signed her. I remember she was in Chennai, and I went to see her at a mall at one of the hotels there, and we hung around and we had a chat. First time that I'd ever negotiated with an actress. You will appreciate this. There were no agents, there were no whatever. It was just her and me talking about it, and we made a deal right then and there, and moved forward. Yes, we shot in Seven Wonders of the World. She was absolutely wonderful. The music was fantastic, and the movie was an incredible success. So it was great.
Ashok, you've been
It
coming.
was also India's selection for the foreign film.
Yeah, that's all right. You've been coming to Cannes. I believe you met Jean-Claude Van Damme.
No, I didn't meet him here. Okay, actually. It was 1984. I had gotten into the movie industry. I was wondering why I was in the movie industry, because I was doing pretty well at tennis. And so I got in the movie industry, and I found that everybody wanted to play tennis with me. Nobody wanted to make a movie with me. So I played in a lot of bad tennis games with a lot of very powerful executives and very powerful actors and directors. They were really bad. So played a lot of those games, and they all enjoyed having me on their courts on Saturday morning, but nobody wanted to make a movie with me. So this went on for about 5 years, and in 1984, I'm sitting in my office, and I get this 8x10 photograph of this interesting-looking young man. So I call him up, having nothing to do. So I call up this man, and he comes over to the office, and he says, "We make movie together?" Guy couldn't speak English. So I said, "Yeah, sure. Why not? So I said, "What do you do for a living?" He said, "I act." I said, "Yeah, well, I produce. But what do you do for money?" So he said, "I drive limos." So I said, "Okay." So he said, "Well, we make movie together." I said, "Okay." So we run around trying to get a movie made, get kicked out of everywhere, and finally we say, "Okay, well, we can't do this now." 1990, I'm at the Cannes Film Festival at the Carlton Hotel, and this young man comes running up to me and he says, "Ashok, out of 800 photographs I sent out," his English got a little bit better, "you're the only guy to call me back." And he said, "Let's make a movie together." And we did. Same with Jean-Claude Van Damme. And we made Double Impact, which turned out to be a huge hit. We made it for $11 million. It did, close to 150 worldwide. And started a great friendship. When I released my book in India, Jean-Claude flew down.
For the first time. That was the only time. Yeah, he came up.
to-
We have William Pfeiffer in the room. William, come up.
William.
Come sit here. Grab a seat. Thank you very much. This man started Sony Television in our country. It's a $12 billion enterprise now. Ashok, I remember last year we had Michael Douglas away.
Yeah.
And just by chance, I was talking to you on the phone, and I told Michael that Ashok is on the phone, and he grabbed the phone and he started chatting with you. How do you know Michael?
Michael was is a friend and has been an old friend for many years. We, as often happened in those days, met on the tennis court. It was at one of our celebrity tennis events. In fact, I have another Monaco story, story actually. So this is a Monte Carlo story, not so much a Cannes story. So every year from 1982 to 93 or so, I'd come over to play tennis for the Grace Kelly Foundation. And so we'd raise a lot of money for the arts and so on. And a lot of the celebrities, including Michael, used to come and play with us. So it's a pro-celebrity, tennis event. And we have a lot of great people here. So the one year, 1988, Frank Sinatra and his wife were here. Roger Moore and his wife. Roger was an old friend for many years. So they were all here. I happened to be paired with Barbara Sinatra, Frank's wife. So it's a 5-day event. So Frank was taking people out to dinner every night. And so since I was playing tennis with his wife, I guess, he invited me along. And there was Roger and Louisa Moore and Frank and Barbara Sinatra. And Frank used to travel with his bodyguard, a fellow called Jilly Mac, and his priest, because in case he died or got shot, he wanted to make sure, he was very Catholic, that he was given the last rites. So Father Blewett from Newport Beach used to travel with him. So anyway, we go to these restaurants. Every night, they'd lock off a part of the restaurant. Finally, after 4 nights, I was getting a little fed up with the whole thing, So every night we were doing the same thing. So I said to Roger, Roger, I'm going to slide out, He said, no, you can't leave before the chairman. The chairman has to get up first, and only then can you leave. So I said, okay, I don't think he's going to notice me. So I slide out, and Frank looks over and he says, Ashok, where are you going? So I said, well, I'm going to the Casino de Paris because every year I come and make my donation to the Casino de Paris of about $400 or $500. So they said, all right, well, Roger and I will go with you. So Frank Sinatra, Roger Moore, and I go over to the casino. I go in, they're sitting outside smoking cigars. I go in for the next 45 minutes. I play blackjack, craps. I lose my $500. I'm walking out. And as Frank says, are you done? I said, yes. So as I'm walking out, the manager comes running behind me and he hands me an envelope. And I look inside the envelope and there's my $500. And I said, what's this? So he said, well, when you come with Mr. Sinatra, you don't lose at our casino. So I said, well, what would have happened if I won? He said, we love it when our clients win. So
you've done so much in Hollywood and all the stuff that's been around. But you're very reluctant to talk about all the philanthropic stuff that you do. Could you enlighten us about what's happening at Cetus and I and the other stuff that you're doing now?
Again, my philanthropic stuff comes from my mom. She was always very much into that. It sort of starts with all the help at home where she used to put everybody through school and college and all of that and so I've tried to carry on that over the years. Cedars has always been very close to us because my dad had his heart operations there and so on. So Cedars-Sinai is where I serve on the board of governors, and we do a lot of stuff. Now I'll give you another little story. From 2000 to 2007 or 8, I would run a tennis event in LA for the Children's Hospital in Los Angeles. They do great work as well. And all of the studios had to participate in this. So every studio and every network had to buy a table for the dinner the previous night. Jeff Berg used to buy a table. The guys over at Richard Lovett and the guys over at CAA, so on and so forth. And so we'd have this great event. And what I'd do that night is I'd pick out 2 names who played doubles together in the next day's event. Now, you haven't seen worse cheating than at these events, because if there was ever a ball that was close to the line, you knew a studio executive was going to call it out. So anyway, and we won't even speak about the agents. So we used to have this event, but the one call I would get every year thereafter was, I don't want to play with that guy. I don't want to play with this guy. So finally, I got so crazy of this whole thing because these are all incredibly powerful people playing this event. And so I had to shut it down because for 2 weeks it was a nightmare before the time. It wasn't that I wanted to play with so-and-so, it was that I didn't want to play with so-and-so. So,
Ashok, you were the first Indian producer to become a member of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. There are several firsts in your life. You've already done 120 films, shot all over the world. There is a feeling among a lot of people that the best of Ashok Amitraj is yet to come. What are you working on now?
Let's see. We're working on a few different things. We have a movie with Anne Hathaway that we're doing. She's a very dear friend. We're also doing a TV series with her at Apple. We are doing a movie with Michael Fassbender, which will shoot early next year. There was a movie called Joy Luck Club, which was a huge hit. We're doing the sequel to that called Joy Luck Club 2, which will shoot later this year. So there's quite a lot of things going on. Hal and I are doing a movie together. We're just casting. So if all goes well, we will shoot that later this year.
Anything in India?
We have plans for India. We've been developing something for India for a global audience. We've also been developing something in India with a couple of the streamers. So we'll be talking about that a little bit more later this year.
Very good. So Ashok, we had the ambassador, Mr. Javed Ashraf, this morning, and he was talking about the power of cinema to win the hearts and minds. You've been the ambassador of India in Hollywood for such a long time, and Hollywood by itself is a huge organization which promotes and sells through sounds and images and pictures the ideas. It's really a battlefield of ideas. And how do we promote India, the emerging India? Because, one thing I was just Googling you, and suddenly something came up, and it said Amritkal. And here we have Ashok Amitraj taking us to Amritkal. So we have this, completely resurgent India now.
Yes.
And Prime Minister wants us to go to Viksit Bharat by 2047. And Bharat has to move in that direction. And
Yes.
Hollywood has to play a positive role. We don't want the negative publicity that we usually get. India is shown in very poor light in some of the movies that are made. The press sometimes is obnoxious about us. We are very sensitive towards that. And we want you to play some kind of a role. What can you do?
Well, listen, in the 80s, when I joined the entertainment industry, and even when I was playing tennis before that, America knew very little about India, right? I remember going to a studio meeting and telling the executive that I was going to India the next week. He says, "Oh, I love India." He said, "No, remind me, which part of India is Singapore in?" So they knew so little about India at that time. Now we are in a different India. 75 years of independence last year,
Yes.
Extraordinary. We have a Indian Prime Minister in the UK. We have a Vice President in America who's half Indian. It is an extraordinary time. We have executives all over the country, from Sundar Pichai and Ajay Banga and all the guys who are.
But only one name in Hollywood, Ashok Amitraj.
It's time to leave behind, I think, a lot of the older things that have been said about India and the kinds of movies and all of the stuff that's been shown, and speak about the new India, that we're living in today. India is such a extraordinary story today. It is, when you talk about Amritkal, I think by 2030, 2035, we will be we are a global power, but we will be the second or third most powerful country in the world, right? And I think that we should, as far as movies go, and as far as the growth of the kind of movies we make for a global audience, we should behave like a global power. We should act like I think we're still kind of acting a little bit like, we're getting dragged along, whereas I think the Indian filmmakers are equally talented. I think there's an extraordinary amount of talent in front of and behind the screen. But, a country like Korea does Parasite and does Squid Game, we haven't quite yet done that. So I think it's time, because you are correct in that there's nothing that influences the minds of younger audiences than motion pictures, television. Of course, you have social media today, but I think, motion pictures and television the soft power is unbelievable. Everything you hear about Oppenheimer and Barbie and all of that, hairstyles, dresses, cars, everything is influenced by the silver screen. So I think India needs to step up. I think we need to step up as representatives of India abroad, especially. We need to step up and together do something special.
So Parasite won all the awards at the Oscars. You see an Indian film going out there and doing the same thing?
I do, absolutely. I think you've got to work towards it. I mean, I think South Korea has wonderful filmmakers, but they sort of worked towards a global audience, not necessarily generally towards a South Korean audience. So the question is, how do you do stuff that does not ignore the home audience, but also translates to a much more global audience? I think it's absolutely possible, as you say, there are wonderful filmmakers in the room, as well as I think we've got a diversity of language, a diversity of culture. When I found Hyde Park Entertainment, I came up with the name Hyde Park because in my days of tennis, I'd walk around in Hyde Park in those beautiful days in London, and that's where the name came from. But the bridge, which is the logo of Hyde Park, was the bridge between two cultures, the bridge between two industries, and that's why I used the Tower Bridge to sort of build between Los Angeles and India and globalize it. So I think it should be, I hope soon, and it takes a little bit of a mental adjustment.
So we won't let you go so fast. We have Hal Sadoff here. Hal, you get to say something or ask a question. Come on, man. Oh, Hal, you're on the spot. Right here.
You want me to ask a question?
Or say something about Ashok Amitraj. What does he feel?
No.
He made Hotel Rwanda, ladies and gentlemen. Give him a round of applause.
Yes. No, I've been coming to Cannes for, this is my 33rd Cannes. And, every one of them, Ashok has been part of it. And when I first started in Hollywood in the sort of late 80s, Ashok was one of the first people I met, and we've been friends ever since. And it's been a great relationship, and to this day we're actually making a movie together.
And we somehow screened Singapore together.
And we were screening Singapore together 12 years ago.
That's right.
Yes,
That's right.
with Sheikh Kapoor.
Yes.
Yes.
Warm memories.
Yes, very much so.
Thanks, Hal. And we have another guy. William Pfeiffer.
Oh, William. Putting you on the spot.
Yes.
Well, I have to say that, Ashok has always been a great role model for all of us from outside trying to get into India. In fact, when I first was with Sony trying to get into India, I met with you and your brother Vijay, and we actually did do a deal with Doordarshan, if you remember, to get Sony's movies on air, and spending a lot of time in India through that led to the idea of creating the Sony Entertainment TV channel and subsequent channels. So
That's right.
very much indebted to you and inspired by you, and hope we can do stuff together in India, because I think, as you just said, everything is there in India. The reason why the U.S. is so influential and powerful, I think, around the world, which is the large domestic market that enables it to invest enough into production values that are appreciated by people around the world. Now, India is at that place where you can get those same production values, but at a fraction of the cost.
Yep.
And, just like when I was at Sony, we did, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, that became a big hit in the U.S. I don't see any reason why, and that was in Mandarin language, why you couldn't do that with an Indian film. Of course, there have been lots of Indian films that have been very successful, whether they be directed by an Englishman, with Slumdog Millionaire, or Bennett like Beckham, or whatever. Some of these movies, and when we were when I was at Sony, we had Lagan, which came here and did pretty well around the world. But I see now that China has opened up to India. A lot of those Indian films are going into China a lot better. But I think nobody would be better to make an international appealing film than this man right here, Ashok. So we'd love to see that from India to the world from you.
Thank you. Thank you. Ashok will be here for a few more minutes. If you want to have a chat with him, talk to him, he'll be around. But before we let him go, we have one final person to introduce. Dr. Mukesh Patra, Padam Shri, the top homeopathic doctor from India, is listed. And he has written a wonderful book on... why don't you talk about it?
Doc, you got to keep us all well. Homeopathic doctor here.
Thank you so much. So privileged to have you to inaugurate my book. This is my 10th book. It's by Bloomsbury. It's on mental health and emotional health. As you know, it's a very major problem all over the world today. So many young people are committing suicides. And I'm just most grateful that I have this opportunity to launch it here. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Will you able to join us?
Thank you. Please come.
Congrats, Doc. I am not joking when I say that, regular medicine is great, but it's wonderful if we can do something that doesn't take pharmaceuticals all the time. So, that would be great. Yes, take
And that is the end. Thank you very much.